Hi guys, this is Radhika here again. I hope you all are doing well. So today I wanted to continue with the emotion series and go on to the next emotion. So the next one I wanted to talk about is anger. So I'm sure all the people who are on this channel have felt this emotion very strongly, and I guess everyone in the world has felt it at some point or the other. Um, so anger is actually a secondary emotion. It's a byproduct emotion. It's not a raw emotion. And I can really say that because I have seen my son who I've seen him since he was a baby. And if you have had this experience, if you have your children or you have whoever, nieces, nephews, friends, children, and if you see them growing up from when they are a baby, babies don't feel anger. They don't. They cry because they need something, but they don't cry because they're angry. Before they are around 1 year old, my son would often cry, but it was never out of anger. And I could see it the time he started expressing anger or frustration was when he was almost one. So he had started like almost walking, and he knew at that time that he has certain control over the environment around him. So that's from the Manipur chakra. If you have seen the chakra series, when the baby realizes or the toddler realizes that he or she can control the environment around, and when they are not able to, they feel anger, and they express the anger by yelling or shouting or throwing a tantrum, and they express it in different ways. So that's what I have noticed, that anger is an emotion which comes much later, and most of the time kids show anger, like toddlers, they will show anger because the emotion that they are having inside is actually frustration. And that's why I say anger is a secondary emotion, because most of the time anger is a response to another emotion which is inside, but we do not know how to express this emotion, which is the raw emotion which is inside of us. And many a times the way it manifests itself, that raw emotion in the outside world, is through anger. So that's why I say anger is like a response emotion. It's a byproduct of emotions that are already inside of us and our surrounding and triggers and all those kind of things, and how understanding the people around us are. If they do understand, or if you're surrounded by people who never understand you, then it comes out more in the form of anger. And if people around you are understanding, they are kind people, then all the emotions that you have inside you, first of all, they don't stay inside you for so much, because you are able to speak to them, you are able to communicate, you are able to let go of all the feelings that you're feeling by talking to them. And because they are also of such a high vibration that they are listening to you, actually listening, actually hearing you out, they do not simply respond to respond. So they listen to you, they understand you, and then your emotions are not inside you for so long. Or even if sometimes they are inside you, the way they come out is through discussions or talks, or saying that, I'm feeling certain way, can you help me out? And hopefully the people around you help you. But of course, because we are on this channel, we can guess that we have not been that lucky that people have always understood us. So yeah, so basically it's an emotion of the ego most of the time, because ego is our identity, and all the feelings that we feel come to the ego. They don't come to the soul, because the soul is always at peace. We just have to tap into that soul which is always at peace. But our ego feels a lot of things. Our ego is involved in this world. Our ego goes around, it plans things, it achieves things, it does things. So that's why I say, ego is not always bad. Ego is good and bad. Like most things in life are good and bad. Similarly, anger is also both good and bad, and I will explain it a little, I will talk about it a little further in this video. So the vibration of anger, what you feel, like how does anger feel, what is the signature or what is the energy of anger? It's very strong, very powerful, very extremely what do you say, extremely in motion. It's not a still emotion, it's not at all still. It's like a wind blowing very fast, or waves. And anger's big brother is rage, and if you don't express anger also, then you will go into a fit of rage, when all the buttons are pushed and all the triggers happen, or something happens which is just like it breaks it breaks the glass, like that last pressure point. So if that thing happens, then rage happens, which is like anger's big brother. So rage feels more like a hurricane. It's if anger is like gusty winds, rage is like a hurricane. It takes control of not just your brain, it takes control of your body also. When you are in a fit of rage, you just want to throw things. And so it's like anxiety, it takes control of the body before you can take control of it. So yeah, that's what happens in rage, but let's focus on anger. So yeah, frequency of anger is also very high. It's not a dense emotion. In dense emotions, you shrink and you go down and you become like a stone, like depression and sadness. But anger is not like that. When you are in anger, you cannot sit down. You want to do things. You want to physically move because it's a moving emotion. It's a fiery emotion filled with fire. So it's moving, and communication becomes very sharp and very cutting and very loud. And it's not an emotion in which you do not communicate. It's an emotion in which you are like forced to communicate. You want to say things, you want to be rude, you want to say things that hurt the other person. So yeah, so the best thing to do in anger, if you are facing anger, is to keep your mouth shut. Really, it is the best thing to do when you are in anger, is to keep your mouth shut. Because anger, you have to process anger. I'm not saying don't process it, but I'm saying when you are in a fit of anger, or when you are feeling it very strongly, the best thing to do is do not speak if you want to process it in a good way. If you are at that point where you are like, I don't give a shit, I just want to say what I want to say, it is going to hurt the people you are around. And if you are like I am, you will not like yourself after that, because you will feel like you knew it was not the right thing to do, but you still did it. You did not listen to your soul, you listened to your ego. And that's what narcissists do all the time. So, if you want to take yourself away from the spectrum of narcissism, you have to conquer your ego little by little. So yeah, the best thing to do is shut your mouth. And if you shut your mouth, even though I'm not saying you are in the wrong if you are angry. Anger is just like any other emotion. You have to express anger, but in a productive way. So I'm not saying that you should not feel angry. You should feel, I mean, if you are feeling angry, it's not even a question of if you should or not. It is just something you're feeling it, so you feel it. But what I'm saying is your reactions to it, so those you can control. So it's not a bad thing to feel anger. In fact, it's a very healthy thing. It's like the pressure inside has built up so much that you have to, it's like the whistle going off or the steam coming out of your system. So it's a good thing, otherwise you will implode inside, or explode sometimes with rage. So yeah, actually, if you implode, it's like depression, and if you explode, it's like rage. So you don't want either of that to happen. So definitely we want to process anger in a good way. So then what you do is, if you close your mouth, you will hear your brain talk to you, and it will be like continuously talking, like all the time, on. And what your ego will do, so this thing that is talking to you now is not your intuition, it's your ego. Because your ego has taken control. When there's anger, ego has taken control, especially this kind of anger where you're like, full of fire and feeling all of it. It's definitely your ego. And you will not probably take any good decisions when you're angry. And sometimes you might, but I still feel most of the good decisions that you will take in your life are when you are not angry, when you are thinking, and when you're logical and listening to your intuition, a combination of both. That's when you will take really good decisions in life. So yeah, so best thing is, do not make any decisions because your ego will be egging you on. So either your ego will egg you that fight it, fight back. And it might criticize the people, it might call them names, it might, just blame them, make them feel useless, put all these things on them. And these are all the things that your ego wants you to say to this person that you're angry on. And so please see my video on healing the throat chakra, because sometimes our ego tells us a lot of things that you have to say these. And because we have had those thoughts, they are there in our brain now, because we were angry and we have had those thoughts, so they stay in our system. So there is a way of releasing it, but not by hurting others, and not by being unproductive in this world. So it's you can use those methods to heal your throat chakra. So if you still don't react to the ego, you don't say those things, you don't do those things, you don't follow your ego's advice, what the ego will do is it will try a different thing. So now it will try to make you feel like a victim, and it will say that, oh, these people have made you feel this way and that way, and they did this to you and you felt so bad and you have cried so much and this and that. And it's almost like a daydream, or a recap, how they show in these drama serials or in movies. Like the character is sitting and some old scene will play again in a misty kind of a filter. So the same stuff happens in real life. You actually go back and you replay those incidents in your head, and your ego is playing them out for you. And so it's trying to basically make you feel bad, and which is okay, because those are the emotions that are inside you. That is the hurt and the helplessness which has been there inside you, and your anger and your ego are pulling them to the forefront. And you might start crying now, and these are the parts of you which are hurt, and these are coming out, so let them come out. And yeah, these are basically parts of you that have felt helpless in the past, and that have been through a lot of injustice. And probably at the time you did not stand up for yourself and do the right thing for yourself, and so these things are coming out. So to deal with this, you will have to uh, um, forgive yourself, and I think I have a video on that too. So you will have to forgive yourself in those situations, because you did not know any better, but now you do. So yeah, so your anger will also bring out all this hurt and helplessness. Now, next, after all this is said and done, and you have cried, and maybe the situation is now that you have moved on the day and you're doing something. Now, what your ego will do is, after some time, it will again egg you on, and this time, maybe you're feeling a bit stronger now. And this time, what it will tell you is that now it's time for your revenge. It will egg you on to take some revenge on the people who have made you feel all this anger, or the situation, or whatever it was. And it will tell you, like, don't talk to them, be rude to them. The next time they say something, just cut them off, or like, call them out on it. Or sometimes it might go the other route. It will be like, now I'm not going to talk to anyone, I'm going to stay alone, I'm not going to interact with other people. So your ego will continuously keep talking to you as long as you have all these feelings inside, and they come out as anger, and then they manifest themselves in different ways, in revenge, in punishment, in shaming someone, all of these things. And guess who does all of these things really well? The narcissists, right? So they have a lot of unresolved feelings inside of them, and they manifest in these ways. But yeah, sometimes even victims of narcissists or people who have been in these situations, we feel the same way. The only difference is that we know how to it better. We find better ways to deal with it. We do not want to become a narcissist. We do not want to go down that road. So what do? So we kind of look at it, and we come up with a better way to do it. We engineer a better way to deal with it. So yeah, so basically, when all of this is happening, when your brain is talking to you and your ego is talking to you, the best thing to do is let it talk. Don't try to stop it, because all these emotions are coming out, and you don't want to suppress them again because they are coming out so strongly. So let them come out, but don't act on it. Don't do the things that your ego is telling you. It's like a really bad friend advising you. Or think about it this way: it's a good friend of yours, but that friend is in a very bad state of mind, and in that bad state of mind, that friend is giving you really bad advice, and you are seeing that. You're like, this friend is not always like this. Why is he giving me such advice? Usually he's such a peaceful person. So you have to realize that your ego or your brain is actually your friend, but it's now in a very bad state, and that's why it's giving you all this not good advice. So yeah, so let your brain, ego, whatever it is that is talking to you, let it finish. It needs to do that, it needs to release. So let it do its job and simply listen to it. Okay, and do not act on it, because these things are not in your best interest. So anger is to ego what understanding is to the soul. Like when your ego is hurt, you feel anger, and when your soul is hurt, um, what you feel is understanding. You try to understand, why did this hurt me, why did this injure me so badly. So it's kind of exclusive, because when bad anger, the kind of anger that I described, talking, planning revenge, this, that, when it all comes to you, understanding goes away. You don't want to understand. Sometimes you have that other voice too, which tries to make you understand, but you are just like, no, now I want to feel anger. I want to feel it. And so the other voice kind of just goes down, and the other voice is like, okay, I'll just wait here till you're done. So let the bad anger be done. Let someone who's shouting, let them shout, because they have to release it. So once this bad anger goes away, understanding comes in. And when you have understanding, you will realize that you can have good anger. And that's what I said before. You can have an anger which is of a good nature, and with understanding, both of it at the same time. So before I said that your anger will say, I will not talk to them, this, that. So that is kind of like gray rock or no contact. But there is a difference because when you're angry, you are simply saying that out of revenge. But when you go no contact or gray rock, it is out of understanding. So you have understood a narcissistic situation. You have understood that there might not be any other solution to the problem. You have tried all of the routes, and you have understood that these people I'm dealing with, or this person I'm dealing with, has all these internal issues, and I am not in a place to solve them for them. They have to solve it for themselves. And so you come to the understanding of gray rock and no contact. So that is not out of anger, that is out of understanding. That's why we watch so many videos on it over and over again from different point of views, because we want to really understand it and we want to come to good conclusions. That's why we do this. So yeah, so basically, what is good anger? So good anger is that feeling that something is wrong, and basically it's just something that shakes you up inside. When you see something, you're shaken up, and that shaking sometimes happens to your ego and sometimes happens to your soul. So when it happens to your ego, it's mostly because you are fearing for your identity. But when it happens to your soul, it happens because you are seeing something non productive in this world and someone is doing it in front of you. Of course, you feel out of control, and anger always comes from that feeling of not being able to control things. But let me give you an example. So basically, there is a child, and the child kicks a dog. Okay, and of course, this is not a behavior that we want to teach, because dogs have feelings, animals have feelings, and your child is kicking a dog, or a child is kicking a dog, and you want to explain to the child that this is not a good behavior. So you want to kind of transfer some knowledge to them. But seeing this act can make you feel angry, because you might be, maybe it's your dog, and you have a heart to heart connection with the dog. So what do? If you if you are so attached with the connection that you have to the dog, that dog is a part of your ego. It's like my dog, my dog's feelings, my dog was kicked, and you simply yell at the child and shout at the child right then and there, creating like kind of a scene and scaring the child. um, it's a manifestation of bad anger, and basically something, of course a wrong deed was done, it was not a good thing to do, but the way you react to that is the energy manifests from the Manipur chakra, which is the solar plexus. So it's coming out of attachment, out of ego. Same thing, you saw a child do something like this, maybe to your dog, but you have the understanding that this is a child here. So I need to, you have the understanding that the child has the capability to change this behavior, or to realize this behavior, what was done in it by himself, that he or she did not do a good thing, not because you are telling them, but by their own soul, themselves, they process it that I did not do a good thing. So you will probably take them aside and explain this to them in a good way. So this kind of energy, so the same thing happened, but your energy traveled upwards to your Vishuddhi chakra, to your throat chakra, Vishuddha chakra. And you decided that you have to say something about it, or you have to do something about it. And it did not come from a place of ego, it came from a place of understanding, because you understand what the dog is, what the child is, what the world is, and what your role in the world is. So you understand that I should explain it to the child in a good way, not out of rage, not out of anger, but in a communicative way, in by teaching, by showing, by creating an example. So you can say the same thing in a better way. So the emotion was the same in both the cases. It just manifested differently. In one case, it manifested from the Manipur chakra, which is the ego center, kind of, and this is the Vishuddhi chakra, which is the communication center. So when you do a lot of inner work on yourself, you are going to be able to manifest all your emotions or everything that is going on, your emotional body in the world, in a very productive way, in a way that helps others, which helps yourself, which helps the world in a way. I'm not saying that it'll change the world, but it might change that child's perspective for life. That child might not kick a dog for his entire life. And if he or she sees someone else do it, in maybe when they are an adult, they will always have this imprint on their mind of this incident, and they will further spread this message that, we should not kick dogs, or we should not hurt animals, or whatever they take from it. So yeah, it's a life changing thing if you can really manifest your energies in a good way, in a productive way. It can be life changing for you, of course, and for all the other people who you come in contact with. So yeah, so if you feel angry, try to identify the underlying emotion behind your anger. And they could be one of the following. So I've just written down a lot of them, but it could also be something else. So if you have some other emotion, please do comment. So the emotions could be this: embarrassment, scared, grief, shame, tricked, overwhelmed, frustrated, depressed, disgusted, distrustful, grumpy, stressed, attacked, guilty, trapped, rejected, helpless, nervousness, anxious, anxiety, exhausted, annoyed, trauma that is unresolved, unsure, like not being sure, envious, disappointed, lonely, offended, uncomfortable, worried, insecure, regret, hurt, worried, etc. Okay, I said worried already, sorry. So, yeah, so these are a lot of emotions, and I think the best thing you can do is when, if you are going through this, and I know I was very angry for a long time. So if you are going through that, do kind of go inside and try to get to the root of the emotion. So I found out a lot of my root emotion was hurt and throat chakra. Like things I wanted to say and I could not, and I did not, and I knew that what is right, but I did not do it at the time because of society pressure, because of promises I had made to someone, and all of these things. But which is fine, we cannot like push a rewind button and go back, but we can always make the present moment a little bit better by understanding and logic and intelligence and all the faculties that we have. So yeah, so for me it was a lot of hurt, it was grief, because I had a lot of love in my heart, and all that was, I wanted to direct it to some object, but that, not object but people, but those people were taken away suddenly. So a lot of grief, and hurt, because I did not intend for anything to happen, but a lot of things happened. So yeah, so a lot of things are there underlying your anger, so you have to realize which are those things, and you kind of have to be your own doctor, because you feel the things you feel the most. Like there are empaths in the world who can actually take on your feelings and feel something for someone else, which is amazing. It's almost magical. I mean, it is magical. uh, but yeah, they can't do it all the time, and empath can't lend his or her life to you to feel your feelings. So you have to feel your feelings, you have to face them, and nicely, because they are like your children. They are coming to you because they feel safe with you. Who else will they go to? They are your feelings. You have to deal with them. So yeah, so basically, when someone is angry, what do they need the most? The thing they need the most is love and understanding. But no one wants to love an angry person. It's just funny, because a lot of times I'm angry, and then later on I feel like I wanted to be loved, and why did I get angry? I could have just said it. So a lot of times when you're angry, you are definitely not attractive, and no one wants to love an angry person. But ironically, love and understanding is what an angry person needs the most to heal. So yeah. And also another thought is, guess who is angry a lot? It's the narcissists, even like overt ones and covert ones. Coverts don't show it, they hide it, but you will see it when their mask slips. They will go into a fit of rage and anger and shaking and trembling, and that's because they are hiding a lot of feelings which finally manifest as anger, and they pass it on to people who have been around them and who have been at the receiving end of their anger. Like, I know I have been at the receiving end of a lot of people's anger, and it does get, people do pass it on to you, and so then you have to kind of you know process it in a good way. So that's something to think about. So narcissists, as we all know, get very angry, fits of rage. So, what do they need? They need love and understanding. And are they going to get it? Does anyone want to love a narcissist? No, no one wants to. So, what can they do? They have to do some self-love themselves and self-help themselves, and we all have to help ourselves at some point. So yeah, that was this video, how to like the feeling of the emotion of anger and the feelings behind anger, and what happens when you, or at least I am angry. This is what happens to me. So in the next video that I'll make, I will probably put together some points on how to deal with anger and how to deal with it in a productive way. Yep, so that was this video, and I wish you all a lot of love and a lot of light. Thank you. Bye.